This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 455, How to Overcome the Gatekeeper.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers. And when you're B2B selling, you're often calling on large organizations that, on purpose, makes it hard to connect with an executive or to figure out who's the right person to talk to. Sometimes these companies have administrative assistants tasked as gatekeepers who do everything in their power to stop salespeople from talking to their boss. What's a seller to do? Well, Taoism teaches that the harder one tries, the more resistance one creates for oneself, and the harder things become. This is quite a conundrum. So what can we do to soften the hardest of gatekeepers? That's the topic for today. But before we start, make sure and subscribe to the podcast on whatever app that you're listening to, and to also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and myself on LinkedIn. You can find links in the show notes. And now today's chapter, Overcoming the Gatekeeper. Water is soft to touch, yet can overcome the hardest of granite. An authentic desire to help can overcome the hardest gatekeeper. I was in the area. I thought I would stop by. Here is some information you might find valuable. Would you like to learn more? Not pushing, not bullying, not rushing the moment. A genuine desire to help and befriend opens doors to opportunities, lest the listener gets bored. And now today's story. Towards the end of the day, Chris knocked on Pat's door. "I wonder if I can pick your brain," asked Chris. "Sure," said Pat. Chris smiled and said, "I appreciate the opportunity to work with these larger deals, but they all have assistants, and I can't get through to the decision maker. What am I to do?" Pat nodded. "I know this sounds hard, but it's not. Some gatekeepers are defensive, some not. Just remember that they're all people, and if you've left a number of unreturned messages, ask their advice on when it's best to call. Ask their advice on who's the best person to call. Treat them like the boss. Ask the qualifying questions. They often know the answers. Heck, sometimes they are the decision maker." Chris then asked, "So what can I do? What's the right mindset that I should have?" Pat nodded. "Be a floating log in the river. You go farther going with the flow than trying to paddle upstream. Put yourself in the place of the gatekeeper. Embrace who they are and respond in kind." Some gatekeepers are on power trips, and it's tough to get around them. But with patience, and when you interact with complete respect, you can turn around the hardest of gatekeeper. Abraham Lincoln said, "If you wish to win a man over to your ideas, first make him your friend." This lesson is essential in all selling situations. When you can turn strangers into friends, even gatekeepers, people can be incredibly generous. The key is to be respectful and patient. To download a copy of this week's Tao of Sales Babble chapter, you can find it in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com. And while you're there, you can sign up for our brief weekly newsletter with links to the podcast conveniently sent to your inbox. Next, if you could do me a favor and share this episode with just one person in your network, somebody interested in growing their selling skills, that would really help grow the audience. Word of mouth is the premier way of growing listeners. Next, did you know that podcasting is the easiest way of turning your executives into thought leaders? And the way you do this is by creating content that reaches your ideal clients. Podcasting is the new blogging. Learn how Habanero Media, my podcasting agency for B2B brands, can help you start a podcast that can accelerate your sales today. Go to habaneromedia.net to learn more. Or you can reach out to me. Let's talk about what you can do to stand out from the competition. With that said, that's all I've got for this week. Until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.